common right now to find somebody who has paid maybe $60,000 or $65,000 for a very high-end pickup truck. Well, even the average pickup truck now is going to be crossing over that $50,000 barrier.
In 2025, 8 popular pickups have crashed so hard, owners can't even give them away. Engines fail without warning, transmissions collapse, emission systems cost more than the truck itself, and the resale value? It's fallen straight through the floor. Which models are draining wallets the fastest? Why are dealers refusing trade-ins? And is your truck about to join the blacklist? Stick around, because the countdown could expose the exact model in your driveway. Chevrolet Colorado 2.8L Duramax. There was a moment when mid-size pickups were being hailed as the sensible alternative to hulking full-sized rigs. Buyers wanted something that could handle weekend projects, pull a small trailer, and still fit into a city parking spot. Chevrolet's entry into this reborn segment came with a powerful promise, a turbo diesel engine that would deliver the best of both worlds. On paper, it sounded brilliant. A 2.8-liter Duramax 4-cylinder offered torque that rivaled much larger trucks, and marketing boasted of sedan-like fuel economy. Early reviews praised the idea, and plenty of buyers signed contracts believing they were making a smart, efficient choice. The reality turned out to be far different. Diesel emissions technology in the United States has been problematic across multiple brands, and the Colorado's setup was no exception. Components like the diesel particulate filter, exhaust gas recirculation valve, and diesel exhaust fluid injectors proved especially fragile. Drivers often discovered their trucks sliding into what's known as limp mode on the highway, a safety-sapping condition where speed and power are drastically cut until the emission system is serviced. Getting back to normal meant repair bills that frequently reached into 5 figures, an almost unthinkable amount for a mid-size pickup already several years old. Turbochargers added another layer of frustration. Whistling noises, sudden power loss, or outright turbo explosions began cropping up before trucks even crossed the 100,000-mile mark. Replacing a single turbocharger often cost between $4,000 and $6,000, and in some cases, collateral damage drove the bill even higher. Add to this the fact that many of these parts had long waiting times at dealerships, and owners ended up stranded for weeks while repairs dragged on. Beyond the mechanical breakdowns, the driving experience itself left much to be desired. Turbo lag was common, especially in city traffic where quick response mattered most. The engine's clattering note and vibrations made long commutes tiring, while the refinement buyers had hoped for simply never materialized. Over time, the promised efficiency also faded. Real-world fuel economy often dipped far below government estimates once the emissions equipment began clogging. Owners who thought they would save money at the pump realized those savings were being devoured by endless shop visits. Sensor failures piled insult onto injury. Nitrogen oxide sensors and diesel exhaust fluid level sensors frequently went bad, and each replacement carried a $2,000 price tag or higher. When one of these sensors malfunctioned, the truck would refuse to operate properly until the part was swapped, sometimes leaving drivers stranded miles from home. Worse still, repeated failures meant that even after fixing one issue, another could crop up almost immediately. By the time 2025 rolled around, the once exciting diesel Colorado had gained a reputation as one of the riskiest purchases on the used truck market. Dealers struggled to move them, even at steep discounts, and many buyers simply walked away once they learned about the long list of problem areas. What had been marketed as a forward-thinking choice ended up being an expensive cautionary tale, proof that not all innovations age gracefully. Yet, as disappointing as the Colorado's breakdowns were, it was far from the only truck to betray buyers who expected bulletproof dependability. Toyota, a brand once synonymous with reliability, proved that even legends can stumble. Toyota Tundra, 5.7-liter V8. For decades, Toyota earned its place in the truck world by building vehicles that seemed almost unbreakable. Owners of older Tacomas and early Tundras often bragged about racking up hundreds of thousands of miles with little more than routine maintenance. That reputation created high expectations for every new model, and in the late 2000s, the full-size Tundra equipped with the 5.7-liter V8 looked like it would continue the legacy. Buyers paid a premium for Toyota's badge, trusting that they were buying long-term durability. Unfortunately, those particular years turned out to be a rare stumble for a brand known for bulletproof reliability. One of the biggest trouble spots was the secondary air injection system. This emissions device was supposed to help meet stricter environmental standards, but in practice, it became a major liability. When the pumps or valves failed, the truck often went into reduced power mode, cutting performance performance so severely that drivers could barely reach highway speed. Repairing the system was shockingly expensive, with typical bills running $4,000 to $6,000. For owners who thought they had bought their way out of costly headaches, that kind of expense was a brutal surprise. The rear differential was another sore point. Weak ring and pinion gears meant that trucks used for towing, one of the very reasons many people buy a full-sized pickup in the first place, sometimes suffered from whining noises, clunks, or complete failure. A full rebuild or replacement could cost $3,000 to $5,000, a devastating blow for contractors and small business owners who depended on their trucks to earn a living. Rust only deepened the frustration. Frames and underbodies on trucks driven in northern climates showed serious corrosion earlier than expected. Toyota had already dealt with frame rust buybacks on other models, and these Tundras were not immune. For many buyers in states with salted winter roads, shopping for a used Tundra from these years in 2025 is less about finding the right price and more about inspecting the underside for cancerous rust that could render the truck unsafe. Adding to the disappointment was fuel economy. Despite Toyota's marketing, the 5.7-liter V8 often returned numbers in the low teens. Rising fuel costs magnified the pain, and combined with high repair risks, these trucks became less appealing as the years wore on. By the mid-2020s, used buyers often walked away the moment they spotted one of these Tundras on a lot, unwilling to gamble on expensive emissions components or questionable underbodies. Perhaps the harshest blow wasn't mechanical at all, but reputational. Owners had willingly paid extra for Toyota's promise of reliability, only to find themselves saddled with the same kinds of issues that plague domestic brands, or in some cases, worse. Trust eroded, and word of mouth spread quickly across forums and communities. What had once been considered a safe bet became a glaring caution sign. In the end, these 2007 through 2013 models proved that even a legendary nameplate can stumble, leaving loyal buyers with regret instead of reassurance. But Toyota wasn't the only brand to leave loyalists reeling. Ram promised a diesel revolution that would blend efficiency with muscle, only for reality to expose one of the costliest ownership traps in modern truck history. Alright, we've seen some disasters already, but the next ones are even worse. Hit subscribe right now so you never miss the inside scoop on the trucks everyone else finds out about too late. Ram 1500 EcoDiesel. At first glance, this truck looked like the perfect bridge between power and efficiency. Ram promised buyers they could enjoy the torque and hauling capability of a full-sized pickup while still achieving highway fuel economy, similar to a family sedan. The EcoDiesel carried a 3.0-liter turbocharged V6 sourced through a European partnership, and on paper, it seemed revolutionary. Highway ranges of over 700 miles per tank were touted in advertisements, and thousands of buyers lined up to purchase what appeared to be the future of American pickups. The honeymoon, however, ended quickly. The engine design struggled under real-world American conditions, and major weaknesses soon emerged. Timing chain failures were reported far earlier than expected. Oil cooler leaks contaminated the lubrication system, and weak bearings left many trucks with bottom-end damage. These weren't small repairs either. Complete engine replacements often exceeded $15,000, an unthinkable sum for owners who thought they were saving money by choosing diesel. The emissions equipment added another layer of misery. Diesel particulate filters clogged with alarming frequency, exhaust gas recirculation valves stuck open, and diesel exhaust fluid injectors malfunctioned regularly. Once any of these systems failed, the truck entered limp mode, reducing power to dangerously low levels until the repairs were completed. Bills for emission system overhauls routinely reached $8,000 to $12,000, erasing any benefit the truck's higher fuel economy might have provided. A darker cloud loomed over the EcoDiesel program as well. Investigations revealed that software manipulation had been used to pass government emissions testing. When regulators cracked down, Ram faced recalls, settlements, and damaged consumer trust. Owners who thought they were driving environmentally friendly trucks suddenly realized they were caught in the middle of a major controversy. Resale values collapsed almost overnight, and online forums filled with stories of buyers desperate to unload their trucks before the next repair struck. Even drivers who managed to keep their trucks running often struggled with constant stress, monitoring oil pressure at idle, worrying about regions, and bracing for the next limp mode became a routine part of ownership. Dealerships grew tired of repeat visits, and some buyers were turned away altogether when they tried to trade in their vehicles. By 2025, the Ram 1500 EcoDiesel had gone from a promising innovation to one of the most notorious money pits in the pickup world. Dealers often refuse to accept them, and buyers hesitate even at rock-bottom prices. For many, the EcoDiesel will be remembered not for saving fuel, but for draining wallets. Still, Ram's failures were only part of the story. Ford, the best-selling truck maker in America, delivered an engine so notorious that it became a cautionary tale etched into pickup folklore. Ford F-155 0.4-liter Triton. Once the king of American pickups, this generation of Ford's bestseller became infamous for one of the most problematic engines the company ever produced. The 5.4-liter Triton V8 was supposed to offer dependable power for work and family duty alike. Instead, it left a trail of angry owners and costly repairs that still haunt the used market in 2025. One of the earliest disasters involved the spark plugs. On some designs, the aluminum cylinder heads provided weak threading that failed under pressure, sending plugs rocketing out of the engine like bullets. Later designs tried to fix this, but swung too far the other way. Plugs fused themselves into place and often snapped when mechanics tried to remove them. What should have been a routine tune-up turned into a multi-$1,000 crisis, sometimes requiring complete cylinder head replacements. Timing chain and cam phaser issues compounded the nightmare. The long chain stretched prematurely, throwing engine timing out of sync. Drivers noticed rough running, poor performance, and in severe cases, total engine destruction. Replacing the full timing set often cost between $4,000 and $6,000. And if valve damage occurred, the bill climbed even higher. Cam phasers rattled loudly at idle, making a once proud V8 sound like an old tractor. Ignition coils piled on more frustration. These coils frequently failed, leading to misfires that returned again and again. With 8 cylinders under the hood, owners often found themselves replacing coils in batches, each repair costing hundreds of dollars. Add in oil leaks, gasket failures, and cooling system weaknesses, and the result was a truck that spent far more time in repair bays than job sites. The greatest sting came from Ford's persistence. Complaints, lawsuits, and mechanic warnings mounted, yet the Triton engine remained in production for years. Loyal owners who trusted the F-Series brand felt betrayed, realizing that the truck they bought in good faith was riddled with flaws. Some drivers simply parked their vehicles, unwilling to pour more money into repairs that exceeded the truck's actual market value. By 2025, trucks equipped with the 5.4-liter Triton V8 are often avoided like the plague. On used lots, they sit unsold, even when prices are slashed. Mechanics advise cautious buyers to steer clear unless there is solid proof of major repairs already completed. What was once America's best-selling truck became, for a stretch of years, one of the most painful ownership experiences in modern pickup history. And while Ford's Triton years left buyers bruised, GM's attempt at fuel-saving wizardry turned its upscale Sierra into a ticking time bomb that punished those who paid extra for refinement. GMC Sierra 1500. For years, this pickup was marketed as the refined cousin to Chevrolet's Silverado. Buyers were told they were getting a more professional look, better interior trims, and an upscale badge that would stand out from the crowd. Many loyal truck owners spent thousands more on the Sierra, confident that they were paying for a premium experience. Unfortunately, beneath the polished chrome grille and leather-wrapped cabins lurked the very same engineering experiment that doomed so many Silverados of the era: General Motors' active fuel management system. The technology was pitched as clever and forward-thinking. By shutting down half the cylinders under light loads, the Sierra's V8s were supposed to deliver noticeable fuel savings without sacrificing power. On paper, it looked like a win-win. In reality, it became a ticking time bomb that crushed resale values and broke the hearts of countless owners. The lifter and camshaft arrangement proved especially vulnerable. Hydraulic lifters collapsed prematurely, grinding into cam lobes and creating a rhythmic ticking sound that any mechanic could recognize as the beginning of catastrophic failure. Once this tick appeared, microscopic shards of metal spread through the engine's oil system, scarring bearings, journals, and other critical components. Repair costs routinely landed between $3,000 and $7,000, and if the engine required full replacement, the bill could climb well past $15,000. For families who had chosen the Sierra believing it would serve them faithfully for decades, this was financial devastation. Oil consumption compounded the disaster. Because of the flawed cylinder deactivation design, oil slipped past piston rings at alarming rates. Many drivers reported burning a quart every 1,000 miles, forcing them to carry spare oil just to keep the truck alive. Neglected engines often ran dangerously low, leading to seized motors or failures during state emissions tests. General Motors attempted partial fixes, such as updated oil deflectors and software changes. But these stopgaps rarely provided long-term relief. What made the Sierra's downfall even more painful was the betrayal of expectations. Buyers deliberately chose it over the Silverado, spending extra for what they assumed would be an upscale, longer-lasting version. Instead, they inherited every single flaw of its sibling, sometimes paired with higher repair costs due to premium trims and parts. Online communities filled with furious owners, lawsuits multiplied, and mechanics began advising potential buyers to avoid these model years entirely unless they could confirm that the active fuel management system had been permanently deleted. By the time 2025 arrived, these trucks carried a stigma that was nearly impossible to shake. On used lots, low prices often served as red flags rather than bargains. Experienced shoppers recognized that even low-mileage examples could be hiding costly issues just around the corner. What had once been marketed as a professional-grade workhorse became one of the biggest disappointments of the decade, leaving many Sierra owners regretting the day they ever trusted the badge. As if GM hadn't already tested buyer patience, Nissan decided to gamble with a Cummins-powered Titan. What seemed like an inspired middle ground between light-duty and heavy-duty soon collapsed into a nightmare of its own. Nissan Titan XD Diesel. Every so often, an automaker takes a gamble that looks brilliant on paper but collapses once the real world puts it to the test. Nissan's Titan XD Diesel is a textbook case of that scenario. Introduced in 2016, the truck combined a heavy-duty half-ton platform with a 5.0-liter Cummins turbo diesel V8. Advertisements promised unmatched pulling power, long-lasting reliability, and the refinement of a light-duty pickup. For buyers who dreamed of towing horse trailers or hauling equipment without stepping into a bulky 3/4-ton truck, it sounded like the perfect compromise. The promise, however, never materialized. The most frequent headaches came from the emissions system. European-style diesel technology struggled in American conditions, leading to constant breakdowns. Exhaust gas recirculation valves clogged far earlier than expected. Diesel exhaust fluid injectors failed regularly, and particulate filters choked with soot. These issues often triggered limp mode at highway speeds, leaving drivers crawling dangerously slowly until repairs were completed. The price of those repairs frequently exceeded $8,000, a staggering figure for a truck that was supposed to represent smart efficiency. Turbocharger failures added another crushing blow. Many owners reported turbos seizing or shattering before the odometer even reached 80,000 miles. When a turbo failed, fragments sometimes traveled through the intake and exhaust systems, damaging intercoolers and catalytic components. Replacing a turbocharger alone cost around $4,000, but the collateral damage often pushed totals well above $10,000. The Titan XD diesel also suffered from an awkward identity crisis. It was too large and fuel-thirsty to compete with mid-size pickups, yet it lacked the rugged durability of true heavy-duty rivals. Buyers quickly realized they had ended up with an in-between truck that satisfied no one. As word spread, resale values plunged, and dealerships began offering deep discounts just to move inventory. Sensor failures piled insult onto injury. Nitrogen oxide sensors, priced at more than $2,000 each, were prone to malfunction, and when they failed, the truck often refused to operate correctly until replaced. Cooling system leaks further eroded trust, with radiators and hoses bleeding fluid and leaving drivers stranded on the roadside. The final nail in the coffin came when Nissan abruptly discontinued the Cummins diesel option after only 3 years. With the engine abandoned, parts became scarce, and resale values collapsed further. Owners who had once been proud to flaunt the Cummins badge on their fenders found themselves unable to sell without taking massive financial losses. By 2025, the Titan XD diesel had become one of the most infamous failed experiments in modern pickup history. What began as a bold idea to bridge two markets instead destroyed reputations and drained wallets. For anyone browsing the used market today, spotting one of these trucks is less an opportunity and more a warning sign to run the other way. But Nissan's failed experiment wasn't the last cautionary tale. Even smaller trucks like the Canyon showed that downsizing didn't guarantee relief from transmission headaches and electrical chaos. GMC Canyon. When mid-size pickups began making their return to the American market, this truck appeared to be the Goldilocks choice. It was smaller than a full-size, bigger than a compact, and promised the right balance between daily drivability and light-duty hauling. Buyers were attracted to its modern styling, comfortable interiors, and the prestige of the GMC badge. Many thought they had found the perfect compromise, a truck that could do just enough work without the fuel-guzzling habits of its larger siblings. But reality quickly proved less glamorous. The biggest disappointment stemmed from its transmission. Instead of delivering smooth shifts, the 8-speed automatic became infamous for harsh gear changes, hesitation, and an unsettling shudder at highway speeds. Owners described the experience as if the entire drivetrain was hiccuping beneath them, while dealerships attempted fixes with transmission control updates and specialized fluid flushes. These solutions often worked only temporarily. Once warranties expired, many drivers were left staring at multi-thousand-dollar rebuild or replacement bills. Electrical gremlins made matters worse. Infotainment screens froze mid-drive, backup cameras blinked out just when drivers needed them most, and dashboard warnings popped up without reason. Power steering modules occasionally failed, leaving owners struggling to maneuver in tight spots. Instead of instilling confidence, the truck became known for unpredictability, a fatal flaw in the used market where reliability reigns supreme. Performance was another sore spot. The base four-cylinder engine felt sluggish, struggling with acceleration and making highway merging a chore. Even the optional V6 offered only marginal improvement. For buyers who had hoped for fuel efficiency, the numbers often fell short of the optimistic government estimates, especially once transmission issues entered the mix, and those who tried towing often discovered they had overestimated its capabilities, wishing they had chosen a larger, more powerful truck. The cruelest twist lay in its branding. Shoppers often paid extra for the GMC name, believing they were getting a refined cousin to Chevrolet's Colorado. Instead, they received the same shortcomings with a fancier badge and a higher price tag. Word spread quickly in truck forums and communities, eroding trust and dragging down resale values. By 2025, used buyers were wary. Sellers found themselves slashing prices yet still struggling to move these trucks. A vehicle that once seemed to be the perfect balance had become a gamble, known more for transmission headaches and electrical unpredictability than practicality. The Canyon story serves as a reminder that branding cannot mask flawed engineering. And in the unforgiving world of pickups, reputation is everything. And at the very top of the list sits the Silverado, once the symbol of American toughness, now a case study in how untested technology can shatter trust and cripple resale value. Chevrolet Silverado 1500. Few names in American truck culture carry as much weight as the Silverado. For decades, it stood as a symbol of hard work, reliability, and everyday toughness. Farmers, contractors, and families alike depended on it. Yet during the late 2000s and early 2010s, this iconic nameplate carried one of the most notorious systems ever fitted to a pickup: active fuel management. The idea was marketed as genius. By shutting down half the cylinders under light loads, these V8 engines would supposedly save fuel without compromising power. What actually happened was far from genius. Hydraulic lifters inside the AFM system frequently collapsed, grinding down cam lobes and creating the dreaded ticking sound that signaled impending disaster. Once the tick began, metal shavings circulated through the engine, damaging bearings and scarring internal components. Repairing the mess typically cost $3,000 to $7,000, and complete engine replacements could soar past $15,000. Oil consumption became an equally devastating issue. Because of the design, oil slipped past piston rings and disappeared at alarming rates. Many owners reported adding a quart every 1,000 miles just to keep their engines alive. Neglect or late oil checks often resulted in seized motors or catastrophic failures during emissions testing. While General Motors issued software updates and redesigned deflectors, these patches rarely held up, and failures often occurred just after warranties expired. The emotional toll was immense. Buyers had trusted the Silverado as a dependable, long-lasting workhorse. Instead, they faced mounting repair invoices that sometimes exceeded the truck's actual market value. Online forums filled with stories of families caught between expensive fixes and loans they still owed. Lawsuits piled up, and independent shops found steady business permanently deleting the AFM system, though that often came with legal or emissions risks. What made this downfall especially bitter was the Silverado's cultural significance. This was supposed to be the truck you could hand down to your children. Instead, entire model years became radioactive on the used market. Even low-mileage examples carry a stigma in 2025, as experienced buyers know the risks all too well. Dealers often discount them heavily, and savvy shoppers approach with suspicion rather than enthusiasm. By the present day, the Silverado from 2007 through 2014 stands as the ultimate resale disaster. Its combination of widespread mechanical flaws, high repair costs, and shattered trust places it firmly at the top of the list of pickups to avoid. It is a harsh reminder that even America's most iconic workhorse can stumble when unproven technology collides with real-world expectations. These are the trucks draining pockets in 2025. Hit subscribe and share this with a buddy before he buys a lemon. Don't let anyone get blindsided.